So, I have another unscripted video here, but it's not about my broken setup this time. It's about something else that I have that is broken. This is a little NZXT Huey Plus. Really popular in the RGB space a while ago. Don't see many of them these days though, but still a reasonably powerful RGB controller. But unfortunately mine sort of stopped working. You know, the pins that these things use are so incredibly fragile, so the cable's just broke and wore away over time, and it just sort of fell to pieces essentially, and then I just stopped using it. What I'm going to do today is try and bring it back to life. So things that need to be done is, this is the power cable. The Molex connector, the pins on it, on the Molex connector just gave out over time. So it doesn't have one anymore, or it's somewhere at least, but yeah. I'm going to be reattaching this Molex connector using the ground, and this thing takes 5 volt in, so I'll be using ground and 5 volt, not the ground and 12 volt. I believe it's the yellow one. I have a Molex diagram up here. Yeah, the yellow one is 12 volts, and the red one is 5 volts, so I'll be using the red and the black one, these two over here. Joining that to this little DC barrel jack, kind of a standard thing there. That's for power. I have my soldering iron heating up here, so I'm going to quickly solder those things together. The other thing I need to do is this connector plugs into the back of the NZXT controller. As you can see, it's the only one that I have that has a clip and a plug, so I know this is the correct polarity and everything like that, but it is missing a little pin. I'm going to attempt to solder a new pin back on. Hopefully it stays like extremely strong, but no guarantees. If need be, I also have one of these connectors, but it doesn't have a connector, one that leads to the NZXT, but one that doesn't lead to the RGB strips. But I have one that leads to RGB strips, one of these, with no cable on the other end, or no plug, so I can solder these together if need be. So that's the plan, to put a pin back on this. If that doesn't work, join these two together. Either way, fix this power connector, and I think I also have the USB, what's his name around here somewhere. The USB internal header to micro B adapter. It's right over here. Little internal header, little micro B connector. And I think that is it. What I might just do is start with the LED strip. I'm going to start with soldering this pin back on. Okay. So, this part that plugs into the NZXT, I have confirmed that once the NZXT Huey Plus receives power and I plug this in, I can get a power signal to it. So there is clearly juice getting to this cable. Now you can see this one on the end here. This is a positive 5 volt rail, and the one in the middle is a ground. I've also deduced by observation, red must be positive, black must be ground, and then these two must be the strays. So I just have to solder these two together, figure out the polarity of these two, and I can test this connector. It seems like a better option than trying to solder on a pin, because if that breaks off or if the contact isn't right, I might assume that my equipment is broken, even though it might not be. Not the prettiest thing in the world, not even close, but they seem to be properly bonded. To check which ones were the middle ones, because to get the 12 volt one, it's easy. I know it's the one on the end, so I just have to, the one on the end where there is an arrow, so I know it's the one on my left here. So that getting the 12 volt there is easy, and therefore the ground, because it's just one, the ground is just one over from the other side. However, I can't remember what they reference it as, PD, PF, something like that. There's like PD or FD or something like that, and then in. So, to get which ones those were, I set my crappy little Chinese voltmeter to the 20 setting for resistance. Or the 200 setting at least, not the 20, I was thinking of 20k. And whenever I picked up a resistance, I'm just like, okay, this is the cable that goes to that pin. And because these are flat and not bundled, like in a core, I know which ones go to which. If that makes sense, I hope you're kind of following. So I guess I'm going to plug this in now. I'll try with each LED strip, but obviously hopefully it just works with all of them. Okay, so going through, as you can see, some of the light is shining on the screen. It's doing that. Hoping things sort of fix themselves when I get NZXT installed here. Okay, so I am running a measurement at the end of this string. There are 3 LED strips attached. And if I probe 5 volt and ground, I get a voltage reading. Get a voltage reading on all of the terminals. Oh, something changed. Continue in guest mode for now. Confirm. Okay, 3 lights are back now. Lighting. Okay, let's see if it sees the thing. Huey plus. Okay, I think it sees it. As you partly might be able to see, it worked. The cable seems to be fully operational, and the hue seems to be fully operational, and I haven't had any weird hitches with the power. Unfortunately, the LED strips themselves seem to be roached out. I have 3 strips out of the 4 that they give you, so 3 survived. And out of those 3 entire strips, was 3 total LEDs worked. There were 2 right next to each other, and then 1 separate one on a different strip. So maybe I did something stupid at some point to kill them. So what I did was I tried to cut the. So what I tried to do was I tried to cut the little protective film off the top and unsolder that single standalone LED, and solder it next to those 2 that were working. So I would have 3 in a row, and then that would be able to just give me a little bit of light in the case for me to work, while I acquired new ones. Unfortunately, they did not work. They're just so finicky, and the soldering iron just isn't quite, you know, rated for those kinds of that sized electronics. But I have some light, 2 LEDs to be correct. It generates a surprisingly large amount of light for 2 LEDs. If I turn the main light off here, but the point is, the controller works, so it might be worth it to get more NZXT LED strips, or to see if I can find some 5-volt LED strips that seem to have the same specifications, that are much cheaper. Yeah, and then what I'll probably do is I'll wire it into, maybe I'll wire it into my Raspberry Pi when that arrives, and then it's not dependent on these 2 servers in here, just the Raspberry Pi. That's the upside of just dumb LED strips, you know, the kind that you get with those little controllers and a remote control. It's not always perfect. So, as you can see, project success. I call this a success, even though the LED strips are dead, because those cables have been like in a tangled disarray for like so long. But now I can actually, if I bought an LED strip, I can plug it in today, which is fantastic. So yeah, if these kinds of little electronics projects that I had on back, or any of the server stuff, or anything like that seems interesting, feel free to subscribe and like. I'll link my website below both of those buttons if you're interested.